18 years after Jay and Silent Bob strike back, Kevin Smith brings the stoner duo back for one more adventure as Jay and Silent Bob REBOOT sees the titular characters travel once again to Hollywood, this time to try and stop a reboot of the Bluntman and Chronic franchise from being made. After stealing the show in Kevin Smith's first film Clerks, Jay and Silent Bob went on to pop up in several other VSQ productions including Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and Dogma. Eventually they got their own feature and it was exactly the kind of fun, very silly, cameo-filled road movie it needed to be. The film didn't take itself seriously for a second and it was all over the place, but it worked thanks to a funny script, some well-paced direction, and a lively supporting cast. Fears that the stoners could only work as characters in small doses were officially dispelled, and yet it took almost 20 years for Jay and Silent Bob to come back for a sequel/reboot, despite appearing in Clerks 2 and being set to return in Smith's Yoga Hosers sequel, Mewes Jaws. Whatever happened to that? Jay and Silent Bob REBOOT begins with the duo being arrested for growing weed in the old video store next to their beloved Quick Stop before going to trial where they lose the rights to their own names. Upon learning that their comic book aliases Bluntman and Chronic are about to undergo the movie reboot treatment, they travel to Hollywood, meeting all sorts of colorful characters along the way, including a cab-driving entrepreneur who cooks tater tots in his car, and a teen girl gang. Jay finds out from old Flame Justice, Shannon Elizabeth, that he has a daughter, Millennium Falcon, played by Harley Quinn Smith, and the latter decides to follow Jay and Silent Bob with a group of friends to Chronic Con, despite not knowing about being related to Jay. A lot has happened, both in the SQ-universe and Kevin Smith's own career since Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, so this new movie was bound to include even more in-jokes and references. Indeed, everything from Smith's podcast to his True North trilogy, Jersey Girl and Cop Out gets a mention, and the film is packed to the brim with cameos, some of which work, some of which are exhausting. The Ben Affleck appearance is dragged out to include a mini Chasing Amy reunion with Joey Lauren Adams and countless Batman v Superman references, when really, less is more with cameos. One of the best things about Strike Back was Will Ferrell's bumbling cop, and while Fred Armisen is entertaining enough as the offbeat cab driver, this movie desperately needed a character like Ferrell's to make the film feel more like a mainstream comedy, keeping the laughs coming and the plot moving. As it stands, there's little to hang on to here narrative-wise, so you mostly just sit and wait for the next cameo. That said, the real meat of the story, Jay's relationship with his daughter, would have definitely worked if not for how heavy-handed the way in which those scenes are approached, with cheesy piano music unironically popping up suddenly whenever there's an emotional moment. This feels like a lack of trust in the actor's abilities to pull off those scenes, when in fact both Jason Mewes and Harley Quinn Smith do a pretty good job overall. Jay and Silent Bob REBOOT had everything it needed to be a worthy sequel to Strike Back, but it's way too messy, reference heavy, and oddly paced to quite get there. The jokes are much weaker also, which doesn't help. The film has its heart in the right place and it means well, never striving for more than a fun ride for those viewers who get all the in-jokes, but there was potential there for a genuinely good, funny comedy, and hopefully Kevin Smith can tap into that a lot more next time, because as it stands, fans such as me will find a handful of things to enjoy here, but ultimately it'll still feel like a little bit of a disappointment. Reboots, am I right? We need Moose Jaws, Kevin. Bring it.